What's going on? Welcome back to the channel. So today I want to talk to you about SoFi. So they did put out their Q1 earnings. I want to go over some of the key highlights from those earnings, what the data points are saying, and what shorts did. Before we get into any of that, make sure you guys hit that thumbs up, and with that, let's get right to it. So SoFi did close 0.53% in the green, 13.23 the low, 14.51 the high. So today overall was rather disappointing. So it did have that high of 14.51 and it just lost all the gains throughout the day. And yes, I get it, the broader market was somewhat kind of iffy today because of some of the data points that came out early this morning, jolt numbers and whatever, not really in line with the kind of the broader sentiment. And as well, Besant didn't really say that much optimistic kind of tariff news, but still SoFi did have a pretty kick-ass earnings, and for it to lose a lot of the gains it had was very disappointing. So they did have a triple beat, so they beat on earnings per share, revenue, and as well gave good future guidance. So they raised the revenue estimates, so they raised it to between 785 million to 805. Currently analysts are forecasting between 755 and 862, so a little bit on the kind of lower end from the highs, but nonetheless though still fairly good. Aside from that though, they did raise the earnings per share estimate, so they're raising it to between the 27 and 28 cent range. So at the end of the day, pretty kick-ass stuff. And so yeah, I think that they hit a home run all in all. So they did have a lot of good growth as anticipated. So member growth went up 34%, product growth 35%, so kind of within that. Net revenue 33% year over year, and so 771, again beating expectations. So yeah, I think pretty good stuff. Analysts, so far we only have 2 ratings that did come out right now. I'm sure a lot will be coming out after hours today, but we did have one 950 hold rating, Goldman Sachs. Mike, who has a 45% success rating. So that as well didn't really help all that much, even though it was a hold and fairly okay price target. Still 950 in comparison to where it is now. That's kind of seen as somewhat on the low end. And even factoring in the after hours, it is actually causing SoFi to be red for the day. So it is down roughly about 0.98% during the after hours. A fair amount of volume, and a lot of that is because of Lending Club. So they did flop in their earnings, so that's causing some fintechs to kind of pull back. But like I mentioned, a lot of people on social media are blaming shorts for all of this today, and that wasn't necessarily the case. Shorts did increase 358,000 shares, but factoring in that there was 170.65 million shares being traded today, shorts, they did a drop in the bucket. And even if we kind of look here, they kind of had little peaks here and there, but for the most part, they didn't really do that much. Most likely, they'll just be waiting for the rest of the data points for this week to kind of act accordingly, but 13.72% of the free floats being shorted works out to be 147.82 million shares. So today you kind of saw a lot of institutions selling. Even looking on the secondary market, you had some that were buying first thing, and then this is where the selling did commence. And a lot of this again was tied to some of the data points that came out early this morning. So string of selling right here, and throughout here, anything that you see as a bid essentially was a sell. So starting to see a lot of selling here and there, occasional buys, but a lot of transactions, of course, both on the secondary market as well as dark pool. So there was a lot of attention, but not a lot of clearly big institutions that wanted to buy in. Maybe some were just kind of swing trading and so forth. But looking at the options, this is where things got very interesting. So 21 million in puts, 57 million in calls. So this is the highest amount of, I guess, dollar value that's been in SoFi for the last 6 months. So huge numbers today. 44% though were negative and bearish in nature. This one stands out. So there was 6.5 million between 220 and 225. And if we kind of look at this and just analyze this a little bit. So there was 2 large transactions, one for 2.94 million, 1.42 million. The 2.9 was bearish. So based on the bid, the ask, and where it was oriented, it is seen as bearish. So ultimately, there was a $12 put that was purchased with a June 20th, 2025 expiry date, so expiring in 52 days. Then this 1.42 million was purchased or was sold $10 put, same expiry date, so June 20th, 2025, and so that one is seen as bullish. So multi-leg transaction, and you can tell it's the same entity based on the timestamp right there, but still it is a little bit more oriented towards being bearish. So again, not necessarily the best when it comes down to that. So let me know your viewpoint on that in the comments below. Aside from that one transaction, you do see from the bulls a little bit more of a consensus for it to be between that 15 and 15.50, which logically, given the results of their earnings, I would completely agree with. But you have manipulation and whatever else. And keep in mind, the manipulation doesn't always just come from shorts. So shorts sometimes aren't the reason why it goes down, but sometimes it's linked to, like I said, analysts. So 950, and I'm sure a lot of these bearish ones are just kind of getting so excited and they're going to pounce with like $7, $8 ratings, and that obviously in turn, given where SoFi's at, will kind of prompt some fear, cause it to go down as well. So just anticipate a lot of volatility in the kind of short term, but based on the bears, they are anticipating for it to be sub roughly around 1150. So as far as kind of a risk versus reward, it's somewhat evenly divided on where it's at. With it right now at 1327, it is still trading between this R1 and the pivot. So 1401 is going to be that next strong kind of target slash resistance. 1246 is going to be that next strong support. And luckily enough, it's kind of more oriented towards kind of moving higher. And I guess it closed green. I guess green is still better than red. But a couple points to watch for though is it did still hold that 50-day moving average. So that 50-day moving average is $12.42. So in the next couple of trading days, because tomorrow we do have GDP and also PCE. Feds like to look at PCE rather than CPI for kind of inflationary data point wise. So that one should cause some volatility, but 1242, just watch for that in the foreseeable future. If for whatever reason that is able to hold, then still anticipate higher highs based on the technicals at least, because as long as it is above that 50-day moving average, on average and historically, it does still result in, as I've shared with you, kind of a nice rally higher. So 1407 is going to be that 100-day moving average. So you have that 1407 and then also that 1401. So it kind of did bounce off of that general area for the most part, but still I feel like there is a lot more upside based on everything. SoFi had a kick-ass earnings, and so I don't really see that much negativity. Of course, you can kind of find some negative points throughout it, but still, I think you can't really argue with these results that they are growing at a pretty phenomenal pace. So let me know your viewpoint. What stood out to you from their earnings as a positive or as a negative? Did you buy the dip today? Did you sell? What's your general thoughts on today? So don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. I always greatly appreciate that. One final thing, pop over to my Discord, completely free. A lot of good people talking about stocks, options, or crypto. A lot of SoFi investors on there as well. So definitely worthwhile to pop over there and take a look. With all that, appreciate all of you watching.